Hi, and welcome to this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric, Executive Director. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation. The second half of this show is going to be a repeat of a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. We're going to replay that as we head into February Heart Month. As they say, we had a chance to have a conversation with Terri Flood from Wayne Healthcare in Greenville about some of the programs they have focusing on Heart Month. Just as we head into that month, we want to put that back in front of you just in case you have an interest in some of that. But we're going to open this show by having a conversation with someone we haven't had a chance to talk to for a while, Joanna Hahn with the Indiana State Museums, specifically near us in Fountain City, the Levi and Catharine Coffin interpretive sites. But you are part of the whole museum function that's out there, multiple sites in multiple places, and we're going to hear a little bit about that. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate you taking some time.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate being here.
Always glad to do it. Let's start, for those who have not had a chance to meet you, talk to you, a little bit of your background, how you started, and what got you into museums.
Yeah. Well, I joke sometimes when I get that question that I stumbled into this career because I graduated college and thought I'd be a teacher.
Okay.
But I discovered the field of museum education. Museums were really, by the early 2000s, really starting to, at the university level, broaden, opportunities for learning outside the classroom. So when I graduated, I was hired on part-time at the Indiana State Museum in downtown Indianapolis. And I thought, well, this will get me by. I can still do education, then I'll become a teacher. But I fell in love with it. And in less than a year, I got hired full-time there and spent 13 years working with, I can't tell you, thousands of school kids that would come visit the Indiana State Museum all year round during the school year. So providing summer camp opportunities and on-site workshops for classes to come and to experience the museum a different way. So, another sort of unique opportunity came my way that I wasn't looking for career-wise, and that was becoming historic site administrator, working at a small house museum. We have 11 state historic sites in the Indiana State Museum and Historic Site System. And in 2016, the Levi and Catharine Coffin State Historic Site was transitioning from being a museum that was volunteer-led to one that was going to be fully operated by our museum system. And I had recently moved to Muncie to be closer to family and had been commuting to Indianapolis, and I got to thinking, I don't really like that drive. I love my job and I love what I work for.
Sure.
So, what other opportunities were out there? And just one day it just sort of clicked in my head. Why not think about transitioning to being a site manager in one of our sites? So that's how that happened. And I came on board officially in the fall when the interpretive center that would open later in December was about to open. So I helped to get that building ready, help with the installation of exhibits, and I can't remember all else, but really getting to know the coffins and their story, since that's where my career was going.
Right.
And so that's where I've been now 8 years, because we're 2025, so I'm almost 9 years in fully. So like I said, I stumble into it, but I feel like I'm in my dream job.
The educational piece that you were working toward, it sounds like that is still front and center in a lot of what you tend to have a chance to do.
So I see my role more in like the public history sphere, and what's great about public history is you are using the resources that you have and the knowledge you have to bring that history to the public. So we do that in a variety of ways. Folks can come and see an exhibit, but they get a guided tour. We do programming where we offer talks that we do or bring special speakers in. We do it through, blog posts, presenting at conferences, all kinds of ways, right? And that's what I love. I love taking a story, and it's got to be a story you're passionate about, right? If you're going to tell the same story for a long time.
Sure.
So I found that story, thankfully. But it's about having that passion and bringing it to the public and helping them understand why it's an important story, too.
Talk about a little bit more about kind of the museum piece of this. You mentioned there are 11 sites outside of the one here in Fountain City. I have to say I probably haven't been in any of the others. Can you tell us about a couple that are close to us that maybe folks haven't had a chance to take a look at?
So one of the things I like about the region I'm in here in East Central Indiana is if you go straight north 1 hour on US 27 to Geneva and Adams County, we have the Limberlost State Historic Site that's associated with Indiana author and naturalist Gene Stratton Porter. So there are people that are big fans of her writing, and so she did a lot of that and was inspired a lot by the nature that was around her in places like Geneva. So there's a historic house there that tells that part of her story and her life in Indiana. And if you go straight south, just outside of Brookville in Metamora in Franklin County, we got the Whitewater Canal State Historic Site. So I actually have people who visit that will do one site in the morning and do another site in the afternoon because we're so close.
Okay.
And stop in places like Richmond and have lunch and those kinds of things. So, but we're all over the state of Indiana except for the northwest region, that area around Lafayette, the Calumet area. That's the only part of Indiana we currently do not have a state historic site.
Have you been to all of them?
Okay. So officially, no. I still have one left on my list.
Oh, okay.
There's the Angel Mound State Historic Site outside of Evansville, Indiana, and that is a Mississippian Native American historic site. Like close to us would be Mound State Park in Anderson, Madison County. You can go, you can see these mounds that were built Native Americans. They have that at Angel Mounds. And I was going to go this fall, but then something came up and I couldn't make it. But they just opened a new visitor center with new experiences. So sometime this year, I've got to fit in a day's drive to get down to Evansville and see that wonderful site.
It's a lot easier with 69 being open, I think.
That's what I heard, but we'll see what that's like.
Okay. We're having a chance to speak with Joanna Hahn from the Indiana State Museums, works specifically with the Levi and Catharine Coffin Historic Site in Fountain City. Appreciate the time that you're giving us. You came here as it was opening. Talk about that transition and what you have seen in your 9 years in terms of visitors, where they're coming from. It's a small community, and people go, how many folks are actually finding that place?
Yeah, well, people get confused sometimes when they come to Fountain City. They think they're going to see maybe a city like Richmond in size, and it's really a community of only 700. But that transition, from what the site was, as I mentioned, was volunteer driven. It was only seasonal, so it was only open maybe 6 months a year for visitors. I can't tell you how many people who've come saying, I've been trying to come here for years, and every time I did, it was closed. And so that was one of the big reasons for this transition, because then with the opportunity that we have to be open year-round, having staff, we're much more accessible. So visitorship, we average between 8,000 and 10,000 visitors a year. We have a good mix of folks from around the state of Indiana, but also out of state. I mean, obviously we're close to Ohio, so it's not hard for Ohioans to come here. But I think there was 1 year, I haven't tracked it in a while, there was 1 year we had visitors from 42 of the 50 states. Okay. And I thought that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, we definitely have an appeal. The history of the Underground Railroad is that part of that history that fascinates people. And we're just extremely lucky here in Wayne County to have one of the best provenanced homes, meaning with the evidence we have, the stories we have, the experience we can provide people, it's pretty unique. And we have that right here in Wayne County, and we're very lucky to have that.
How much of that history is written?
Well, most of what we impart comes from Levi Coffin himself. So we're fortunate that he wrote an autobiography before he passed away. So much of what we do, especially in the guided tour, when we're in the house, much of that is coming from Levi and the experience he had, as well as imparting what he experienced with and learned from freedom seekers in their escape north. So we're able to go into those stories as well. So now, of course, we do other research. Because there's some stories out there. It's like, is this, the Underground Railroad, as much as I say it fascinates people, it can be very confusing because over the years a lot of myths have developed. I mean, I have a few people that show up and think they're going to see a train. Okay. Right? So I always hate to disappoint them, but it gives us a chance to help them really understand what we're talking about when we're speaking of the Underground Railroad. So we have to be as close to the history as we can get. But there's a lot of what we know, there's also a lot that we don't know. So we have to be very clear with our visitors when questions come up. When we say we don't know, it's not because we haven't been trying to find the answer. We have.
Sure.
We just honestly at this time don't know.
There's some of that history that may truly have just been lost over time.
It wasn't. These aren't individual. I shouldn't say that. I say this is a history that wasn't meant to be recorded while it was happening.
Right.
So you're dealing with a history that there aren't as many surviving records as there could be. But we're fortunate when you've got people like Levi Coffin and even some freedom seekers that did speak up and write their own version of events not their own version, but they're telling us their version of what their life was like. And so, and then we look at newspapers, we look at even church records. You know, we try not to leave any stone unturned if we can. So,
what drew you to the story? You mentioned earlier, if you're going to tell a story over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what drew you to the story and what keeps you interested in helping the public understand this history?
There's several. The Coffins were, we look at them today, we see them as heroes. But what makes them heroes? Like what, you know? Mm-hmm. So it allows me an opportunity to go through that and say, well, when the Coffins were doing this, they could be considered criminal. There's one historian that says the Coffin House may have been the center of the most criminal activity in the United States in the 1830s and 40s because of how many people they were helping, right? Okay. But we don't see them that way today. So, but it's helping to make sure that folks understand that, and I like to be able to bring that to light for them. The fact that you get to literally stand where history took place. And people sometimes make emotional connections with the historic stories they're hearing. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like being a part of that and being able to provide that is important to people's understanding of history. And so that to me is just to be able to stand and tell that story where that story took place. That just means a lot for a historian. Now, a little bit personally, mm-hmm. the Coffins are Quakers. I am descended from Quakers that lived in Wayne County and Henry County. Okay. So, I mean, at the same time the Coffins were doing this. So I don't know, there's just something that draws me to that on a personal level as well. And so I think for where I want to be as a historian, I want to tell a story that inspires people and impacts people. And I feel that this is one that does. So.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11, or maybe you're watching us on our Facebook page, our YouTube page. It's a Sunday morning and you're listening to the program on G1013 or their sister station, 1490 AM, 100.9 FM, ESPN Radio, WKBV. However you're checking us out, we appreciate you spending some time with us. We're spending time with Joanna Hahn from the Indiana State Museums, talking about the specific site where she is, but the state museums really as a whole. Mm-hmm. A gem for Indiana, giving us a glimpse of public history, mm-hmm. life as it was, and how it has evolved. Heading into February, I mentioned Heart Month. Yeah. It is also Black History Month, mm-hmm. which it ramps things up for you all. You're open year-round mm-hmm. now, as you say, mm-hmm. but it helps ramp things up for you. It is also a month that has one of your 3 free days in it. The museum does cost to get in on a regular basis, but 3 times a year you all open that up. So talk a little bit about that.
So we do 3 free admission days each year. Our next one, we just hosted a free day on Martin Luther King Day, Monday, January 20th. The next one is President's Day on Monday, February 17th. And we normally don't open on Mondays. Okay. We're normally closed. So we'll be open to the public on February 17th from 10 to 5. And so now, sometimes with those free admission days, they can be pretty busy. So we encourage people to call in advance, let us know when they'd like to come, and we'll set them up with a tour time that works with the time of their visit. We do offer, I think, 6 or 7 tour times, where we typically only offer 3 during most days. That's how busy we know we can be. But that allows you access to the Interpretive Center, which is self-guided, and to receive that guided tour in the Coffin home. So, but along with that, it's President's Day, and it's just not President's Day without a president being on site. So we have Abraham Lincoln visiting us during the course of the day, and he will be doing a talk at 10 and 1 o'clock. Now, there is an additional fee for that. I can't, unfortunately, offer that program for free. But it's a fantastic program. So if you love Lincoln, which around President's Day is just after his birthday, so if you're a Lincoln fan or just enjoy a good program with some good stories, our interpreter does a fantastic job of doing that.
Talk a little bit about how you kind of balance that, because your tour, your tours in general, take a little bit of time. You're suggesting probably that people take an hour and a half?
Yeah.
What's your, to get through your normal tour?
Yeah, I know. The guided tour, now I always warn people, we try to keep it to an hour, but if you have a lot of questions, it may take a little longer to get to lunch,
Okay.
So, but, and people laugh just like that, but it's true. We want to make sure that while folks are on the tour, any questions, any confusion they have, this is their opportunity to ask those questions. And so sometimes that can lead to like a broader discussion. And so if people are willing to have those broader discussions, we're comfortable with having it with them. So, and sometimes we have tours where people are like, thank you, had a great time, they didn't have any questions, which then makes me think, I think we did a good job. I think we had all the important points they were probably looking for. But generally, a general visit is like 2.5 hours if you include spending time in the interpretive center, which is self-guided, so you can go at it at your own pace. And what the interpretive center has, we have an exhibit called Soul Seeking Safety, which helps to put the Coffin story in a broader national context. So, because the Underground Railroad didn't just happen in Fountain City, Indiana.
Right. It
was happening in multiple places across the United States. And so this is an opportunity for you to understand that broader context, as well as learn a few more stories of some of the freedom seekers that found their way through Fountain City on their way north. And then we also have a wonderful kind of, we call it an orientation film, but it's a 10-minute film that helps to provide some visuals using actors and such, showing the coffins and highlighting, again, a few more stories from Levi's book. So,
yes. February 17th, busy day, open, free day. Plus, you've got Abraham Lincoln in, and there is an additional cost for that. You can visit the website if you want more information on that cost. February 28th, Standing Up Against Slavery, the story of Polly Strong.
Yeah, this is probably a story that anybody who's a native-born Hoosier may not know much of. When people are educated about our state's history, they're always told in 1816, when we became a state, we were a free state, so there was no slavery. But most people may not realize that when we were a state in 1820, there were still a couple hundred individuals listed as slaves in the state of Indiana. Polly Strong was an individual who sued for her freedom in 1816. She was enslaved to a man in Vincennes, Indiana, where most of these individuals were enslaved, and there's a long history why that area in particular. But Polly was very much aware that with the Constitution and her potential freedom, and this was one of the first Supreme Court cases our state Supreme Court heard when we became a state. So she sued for her freedom, which she did achieve. And so that eventually, it took another 10 plus years, but eventually by that time, on at least census data, we don't see anybody listed as an enslaved individual living in Indiana as a resident.
Okay. So you've got that, and then you move in, and obviously during the month of February, you all are much busier. Lots of people coming in. That's one of those months. But you all are open year-round.
Right.
So as you look beyond February, is there a couple of things that you want to mention that the audience maybe want to be aware of?
Well, it's getting to be one of our busiest seasons, and that's school field trip season.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that was a season.
It is. Well, for some of us in sites, it feels like that's all we do in April and May. I call it our rinse, wash, and repeat cycle, because we show up, what's the school group today? We do a lot of field trips, mostly for 3rd and 4th graders, and a lot of them from Wayne County schools and from surrounding areas. And I have schools that come as far as Indianapolis and Fort Wayne to visit. So I highly recommend in the months of April and May, if you want to visit, call ahead. We'll let you know how busy the day is going to be. Once school's out, it's not a problem. So by Memorial Day weekend, we won't be quite as busy. But I just hate turning people away who just drive in and being right on US 27, and then people drive by like, what is that? Or they see the sign we have on the exit on I-70, they're like, oh, let's go check that out. And then they drive in. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I've got 100 fourth graders here. I've got to take care of them first. Can you come back later? And I encourage them to do and go have lunch in Richmond or go see another institution. Or so it's going to be busy. Our May is already totally booked, actually, with school field trips from May 1st through the last day of school. So we're pretty booked. And now I have to book April for those that are trying to get into May. Anyway, don't give up. If you are like, I want to do a field trip, call us. We'll do our best to work with you.
Okay.
So,
a couple of things in March that you've got coming up. Hoosiers reading Frederick Douglass on March 8th. Is that from 2 to 4?
Yes.
And what is that?
So we have a great relationship with an office at IU Indianapolis called the Frederick Douglass Papers. And they edit Douglass's papers and his speeches and print it for various reasons. And so we work with one of their scholars to come and to do a talk around one of Douglass's speeches. And Frederick Douglass was a major proponent for female suffrage. And this is before, this is before the Civil War. He was one of the few men to attend the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York in 1848. So one of his first real speeches that was recorded or written down was speaking on women's suffrage. So Dr. McGivigan, who's our scholar from IU Indianapolis, is going to come and we'll do an actual reading of the speech. So everybody will get a chance to participate and speak Douglass's words and then have a conversation about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on March 19th, Women and the Underground Railroad, Female Freedom Seekers from Levi Coffin's book.
Yeah, so I'll be giving that talk. And so if you want to, again, hear how passionate I am about these stories, there are a number of women who escaped on their own, without the help of other individuals and often without the help of the Underground Railroad for part of that time. So I'll be highlighting some of those stories. And in that talk, not only will I be speaking to their experience with the Underground Railroad, but also highlighting what their experiences were as females who were enslaved and helping people understand some of the decisions these women made over the course of their escape and to see what questions people have about those experiences as well.
Levi and Catharine Coffin were honored by being part of the Abolition
The National Abolition,
Hall of Fame. Can you give us a little bit of background on that? Because it happened just this past October.
So then when I started the site in 2016 and started to research other sites and museums that had similar interpretive themes as what we do, I found the Garrett Smith estate. And Garrett Smith was an abolitionist in Peterborough, New York. So it's kind of in the center of the state of New York. And that is where the National Abolition Hall of Fame is, and which was started by a group of volunteers. And I can't remember exactly when they started, but around 2016, 2018, they started accepting applications from anyone in the United States that wanted to submit a man or woman for consideration into the National Abolition Hall of Fame. So it's housed in Peterborough in connection with the Garrett Smith estate. So I immediately thought, well, the Coffins aren't in it.
Yeah.
So I have to fix that. And then COVID happened. It takes a lot of work to write one nomination, and I was going to write two because I wanted both of them nominated if I could. So it took a process, but in 2023, I submitted both and was a little afraid that they may only choose one because how often can you, I'm sure they don't accept nominations of two people from the same nominator. But anyway, was grateful to hear that spring that not only were they excited that somebody finally nominated the Coffins because they're like, we don't know why it has taken this long, but that they were going to accept both of them for the same year. So they made an exception. Nice. So I had an opportunity to go out to Peterborough, New York in October, attend the nomination ceremony. give a talk on both of them.
Oh, cool.
And meet some other people there were 2 other individuals that were nominated in the same class for the class of 2024. And just met some fantastic people that are doing amazing history and work in places like New York and Canada and Massachusetts, and the people came from all over. So it was fantastic.
Marvelous. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that for the community. Again, shining a spotlight on what we have here locally. We've got about 3 minutes left. I know I've peppered you with a lot of questions during this time frame, but is there something that you want the community to know about you, about the Indiana State Museums, about your particular site that I haven't asked you about? I'm going to give you the floor and let you go. Is there something that you want folks to know that
well, how about I share what my favorite state historic site that is not the Coffin site?
Okay.
And my favorite state historic site to visit, and it's any time of year, I mentioned Gene Stratton Porter's Limberlost home.
Yes.
But we actually have 2 Gene Stratton Porter sites. And we have a second one further north on Lake Sylvan, Indiana.
I've never heard of it.
And that's part of the reason why it's one of my favorites. This house literally sits on one of those picturesque northern Indiana lakes. That was her second home. So she started off with the home in Geneva, and then some things started to change around Geneva, and she goes, I'm going to move further north. Where the farming isn't as big and such, and she built this beautiful home on Lake Sylvan. And I've been up there in the fall, I've been there in the summer. The gardens, if you love gardens, beautiful gardens, because Gene Stratton Porter loved her flowers. And just a beautiful setting on the lake. But the tour, both homes give fantastic tours. Gene is such a phenomenal woman that I don't think, again, a lot of Hoosiers know about. And so I fell in love with her story and can see why she wanted to build a house on that lake, because I'm jealous of the site manager all the time saying, oh man, if there was another site I'd be at, it'd be this one, just so I can look at the lake all day long.
It's frozen over right now.
It is. They actually shared a picture where people walk, because it has finally frozen thick enough. Ice fishing is very big up there. People were walking all over and driving on the ice too. That would worry me a little bit. I don't think I would trust that. But anyway, so that's my favorite. But we have fantastic sites. We have historic homes on the Ohio River. I talked about Angel. Another favorite is the New Harmony site. And that's just north of Evansville. And New Harmony is where we had several groups try to create utopian societies. But it's a beautiful community. If you're looking for a good getaway, I mean, New Harmony is just a great place to visit. So anyway, I can talk about our sites all day long.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have you back and we'll get into it a little bit more.
I'll be happy. I'll be that ambassador.
I think it's great for people to find out a little bit more, particularly me. I haven't been to all of them. So check it out, indianamuseums.org. You can find out about sites in Indianapolis as well as some of the regional sites, specific the museum.org, indianamuseum.org. Also check them out on Facebook, other social media site?
Just Facebook.
Just Facebook is what they're using.
Yeah.
So check it out. Be sure to look at some of the events that they have coming up at the Levi and Catharine Coffin House State Historic Site in Fountain City. Thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon. And again, indianamuseum.org if you need more information. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more In Focus in just a moment on WGTV, Channel 11.
The Levi and Catharine Coffin State Historic Site in Fountain City is open Wednesday through Sunday and some holidays. Enjoy a guided tour through the home of Quakers Levi and Catharine Coffin, where freedom seekers found refuge. Then see the site's interpretive center and learn more about the history of the Underground Railroad. Reservations for tours and special programs can be made online at www.indianamuseum.org or by calling the site at 765-847-1691.
At Richmond Power and Light, we're dedicated to serving our community and restoring power during storms, no matter the time or day. We understand that losing power is inconvenient and frustrating, which is why we offer the quickest and easiest way to report an outage through SmartHub or by calling. Stay informed about the latest outage updates by following us on Facebook. Trust Richmond Power and Light to provide you with reliable and efficient service.
And welcome back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. Thanks for spending time with us. I'm Eric, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television. Great first half of the program. Appreciate again Marlene Lindsay for sitting in with us and updating us on the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County, Indiana, and all that they've got going on, things that I didn't even know before we started that conversation. I'm happy to have with me Terri Flood, Vice President of Business and Development Marketing. There's a title. For Wayne Healthcare. First chance I'm having to have a chance to speak with Terri in this setting. I've had a chance to speak with Terri previously. Thanks for joining me here.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Let's start with you a little bit of your background that you want to tell us about where you're from, how you got into healthcare, whatever you want to share.
Sure. Well, I'm originally from a small town in Kentucky, Maysville, Kentucky. It's along the river. But as far as after that, I went on to Western Kentucky University, which is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And there I got an undergraduate degree, Bachelor's of Science degree in Family Studies with a minor in psychology. Went on to get a master's degree in healthcare administration and also a certification in leadership studies.
Okay. I feel dumber already.
Oh, stop.
Talk a little bit about what brought you or what your steps were to get to Wayne Healthcare, starting out in Kentucky and then ending up in Darke County in Greenville. Talk about that transition.
Sure. Well, sometimes we plan a path for ourselves, but often we take a detour along those plans. And so for me, ended up at Western Kentucky University, worked at the health center. So I had an opportunity to learn a lot from those folks who were instrumental in health and wellness and education, and then also on the administrative side of things. We were a full service primary care facility, so just like any other doctor's office in a community. And I sparked an interest there. I got a chance to educate parents and students about health and wellness and services, and that sparked additional interest to go on and get my master's degree. And then as I made the transition, wanting to be closer to family, I've been here in Darke County for the last 11 years. I started out as the Director of Marketing and Communications, and as the organization grew and priorities and responsibilities for myself changed, so I just kind of fell into what I'm doing. And now, as we continue to expand, services and outreach and partnerships, I thought, what better way to start this conversation with you and embrace those who are right across the border here in Wayne County and share with them about Wayne Healthcare.
You all have relationships with other organizations, including working some with Reed Health.
We do. And as we're going to talk today about some of our services and programs, specifically with, Heart Month coming up, Dr. Henry Chong has been very instrumental in some of our cardiology care in our community and has been over the years. So that's one opportunity of how we've partnered with Reed, particularly Bethel Cardiology, to educate patients in the community about services that are available to them.
We're not going to assume that everybody even knows where Darke County is, let alone what Wayne Healthcare is. So talk a little bit about where you're situated from Wayne County, because we continually have people move into this community for jobs with various companies here, but maybe they've traveled east and west, but haven't gotten a chance to do the north and south thing yet. So talk about Wayne Healthcare, where they're located from here.
Yes. So we're right on the other side of the Indiana-Ohio border. So right west central Ohio, depending on where you live in this area and who's watching. But we're not far. It's about a 35-minute drive. So again, not far. We recognize that people are looking for options when we talk about care. So within that, I would say 30 to 45 mile radius, people are willing to drive that. And so we're not far. We recognize that we have members that in our community that work there, live there, but again, they're driving to and from within this area. So why not expose them and make them aware of the services that we have available as well?
Wayne Healthcare has a history, a long history. You were just telling me yesterday was 103 years?
103 years. So, there's not a lot of independent hospitals that still exist in America. And so we're fortunate to still be standing, locally owned and operated. We do have an affiliation with the system in the region, but what we do is local. Our care is local. We employ providers, and no, we're not a larger institution or a healthcare system, but we leverage our partnerships to then help us be able to bring care to our community so that individuals don't have to travel a far distance to get the services that they need.
As you all are doing your work, talk about some of the things that people would be used to in terms of how they access you all, where you all are, and being a smaller independent. I assume you don't have every service that's available. So talk a little bit about those that, generally speaking, would be accessed most by people, or that they would want to drive and look for a provider or another hospital.
Well, I'll start with our employed providers. Again, very small primary care practice group. We've got 2 nurse practitioners there. But again, while there is an FQHC, a federally qualified health center in Darke County, which is ran by Family Health, we know that there's a shortage of providers. You know, you can call your primary care provider today and it might be 6 weeks or longer before you can get in.
Sure.
So we do have that service. We also have 3 all-female general surgeons. So when you think about colonoscopies and other GI-related services, we can offer you those services, scopes and things. We have OBGYN, 2 physicians, and a nurse practitioner. So while many places are closing their obstetrics and maternity services, we're still very, very fortunate to offer those services to our community. So we have a brand new, it's a few years old, but a brand new Special Beginnings is what we call it, maternity area. So if you're looking to deliver or know somebody that is, right across the border, we've got an amazing space there. Tried to make it as home-like, with home-like amenities as possible. And then we also have cardiology services. We employ 1 physician and a PA in our cardiology practice. So again, not large offerings when we think about our employed services, but we do have those services. And we do also have, we've become known in the region, we were the first to have the Mako robotic technology. So when you think about joint replacements, knees and hips, we have a partnership with Orthopedic Associates. And that is something that we're continuing to grow and advance throughout the region as well, because they have offices in different places. But from a surgical standpoint, coming to Wayne is where we want people to come for that service.
Is there a secret to remaining, for the most part, an independent hospital in this day and age, where, when not only in healthcare, but in a lot of other industries, you're seeing that consolidation?
Correct. You are seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions and so forth. So, you know, I would say our partnerships, leveraging our partnerships has worked well for us. We're very nimble. We're able to move a lot quicker than a lot of the larger systems when it comes to advancing forward these type of opportunities. So it's really served us well, and that's why we're still standing pretty much independently for the last 103 years.
You all are, and you mentioned it, a lack of providers, nursing shortage all over. As a smaller independent hospital, how do you all maintain your staffing when it's hard for even some of the large hospitals?
Great question. We were just having a discussion about this yesterday when we talk about strategies and recruitment. And again, you've got to get creative. So we're not unique in this situation. It's making those partnerships with, you know, places like IU East, and on the Ohio side, you've got Edison and Sinclair and other places who have these nursing programs. What are they doing? You know, we recognize that a lot of these colleges are coming up with success planning and programs to advance the student body, you know, in these particular programs, whether it's respiratory nursing, physical therapy. There's a lot of shortages for a lot of different reasons. So just getting creative with each individual school and organization to create unique partnerships, which is kind of why I'm here today.
Okay. we're coming up on we're halfway, and it's hard to say this, we're halfway through January already. It seems like it just started.
Yes.
And heading toward February, which is considered Heart Month. And I had a chance to talk to you and actually first met you around this time a year or so ago. And we were talking about some of the programs that Wayne Healthcare did in the month of February. There was a long list at that time,
yes.
and that list has continued. So let's talk about some of these programs, because many of them that are actually on this sheet are actually free. I think one or two of them folks can actually join virtually. So it is possible to kind of get some of that education without having to go out into the cold weather that we're experiencing at this particular moment, and people are trying to avoid that. So being able to make some of this information available to people virtually has, I assume, been a help for you all.
It has. And, we've all had to get creative and pivot, before the pandemic, we all kind of navigated and operated a little bit differently, but making things available to people virtually is certainly something that we're all striving to do more consistently and more regularly, even though we would like for people to come out, face to face and be with us.
Sure. Talk about one or two of the things. Let's start off with that are really important. February 4th, actually. Let's start at the beginning of the month, where you've got Breaking Down Heart Failure.
Yes. And that is with Dr. Henry Chong, who you heard me mention previously, and his nurse practitioner. So they're going to be talking about breaking down systolic and diastolic. So when you think about your blood pressure, the top number and the bottom number, 120/80 has been that baseline for many years, but it varies and fluctuates. But
I wish I could hit that.
I know, you and me both. But knowing what your numbers are, again, that is what we want people to recognize, is that knowing your blood pressure is so key, because it throws so many things in your body off, whether you're at risk for other chronic diseases or heart disease, just other things that's happening in your body. 9 times out of 10, that is one of the first indicators. If that is too high or too low, it's telling you something's going wrong within your body. And so you need to get care immediately to address whatever's happening.
Okay. I'll let you decide where we go next. There's so much on here. What do you really want people to know and really be aware of in terms of events coming up in this next month that they would want to know about, that they need to know about, or that the wife can kind of get the husband to go, because we're guys. We don't want to do it. We're not going. We don't care about our numbers, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So normally it's the wife or the girlfriend that are pushing us toward making sure we get those doctors' information.
Yeah, I would agree. We know that women oftentimes make those household decisions and are really pushing forward. Hey, make sure you get your annual screenings and these tests done. But in reality, it is up to us as individuals to take ownership in our own health. So regardless of age, make sure you know your numbers. So what I would say is there is education available, and we're promoting awareness of our heart health related services through the month of February. Primarily on Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the month of February, you're going to find an event available at Wayne Healthcare.
Go to February 11th, and diabetes is another problem area, I think, throughout Indiana as a whole. Having talked to healthcare providers here in Wayne County has high numbers in that area also. So you all focusing on that is not a surprise.
It is not a surprise. It's the same in Darke County, and we're actually going to be having some conversations with community leaders and partners next week regarding our community health needs assessment to talk about some of these things. But we do offer monthly free diabetes wellness education. Karen Dresch.
Monthly. So this is not just a February type of situation.
That's correct. But we want to highlight that. Karen Dresch, our diabetes educator, does a phenomenal job in our nutrition lab. It's a free program, again, around the noon hour. And we encourage people to come out noon to 1, I'm pretty sure, on the 11th, like you said. yeah, this information will be available on our website and social media. We do also print it in the local newspapers and those in the surrounding areas, because we recognize that people still do read the newspaper as well.
There are people who do want to still continue to open that newspaper. So it's a matter of hitting people where they are. You all are aware of that and focused on just the health of the community.
Absolutely.
When you look at reaching out to people, though, in those terms, and again, being a smaller hospital, how difficult is it when you think of the various social medias that people are on, whether they're watching television, whether they're not watching television, which radio station they're listening to? What's the difficulty for you all in trying to make all of those little connections so people see it enough times that they act on it? Because I can see that and go, oh, that's nice. But if I don't see it again, it would have been nice and it would be gone. They say in marketing, you need to see something 7 times before it actually, you want to act on it. So how do you all do that with the segmented media that's out there?
Yeah, so we've tried to, build those partnerships and relationships with the various communities, starting at home. So within Darke County.
Sure.
And we've done that. We've got relationships with the local radio station and newspapers and so forth. So then we've started to leverage that out migration to other places, again, much like we're doing today, so that we can share this information in various mediums. You've got the print, the digital, the various social media. Facebook is predominantly where we get most of our engagement from those online. But then again, you've got those, north of the county, in Mercer, and then you've got here to the west, So we're just trying to create the opportunities and the partnerships where we can then leverage those relationships, and then they can kind of carry the message forward for us.
Is it harder working across state lines like that? Are the rules in any way different?
Well, the rules get tricky when you think about healthcare in general because of coverage. That's probably the biggest thing. But as far as providing the education and awareness, no.
Okay. You all have something, Heart Art, coming up on February 13th. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is something.
The pictures are cute.
Yes, you get a choice. You can choose which product or, which artwork you want to design. And so, this does have a cost to it, but the cost that you're paying really goes back to our foundation to then carry forward free and discounted screenings for people who need them, particularly our vascular screenings. But it's a fun night where individuals can come out and sip and paint with us. We do have a permit to offer alcohol during that event. So it's just a fun night. Drab to Fab is going to help lead us through the artwork, and we'll have light refreshments and education just to share what services we have available, not just during the month of February, but anything that's heart related from Wayne Healthcare standpoint. There's
only 2 things, and the sheet that I held up, there are really only 2 things on it where there is a cost associated with it. There's one that we're not going to be able to put up because the pricing is large, but you all are doing lipid panels and EKG by appointment. There is a cost, again, to that, but you were mentioning to me before we went on the air that if someone feels like that cost is a barrier, you all don't want that to stop them from at least reaching out, because you might be able to help out. Absolutely. Your foundation might be able to help out. Absolutely. So our foundation is our philanthropy arm of the organization. So when we think about a lot of what we're doing, when we talk about those donations, we want people to make those to our foundation, and then we have different tiers and programs that support the foundation and really the organization as a whole. So yes, there is a cost to lipid panels when you think about your triglycerides, your high and low cholesterol, those types of things. Again, it's important to know your numbers. And then you also think about, EKG, the rhythm, the heart, the vascular screens, all of those things that really are keeping you going. We want you to know your numbers, so you can always reach out to our foundation to learn more about, or even our website, to learn more about those programs if you are uncertain and don't have the means to pay for those services. Mention website real quickly, waynehealthcare.org. Waynehealthcare.org, that is correct. So for more information, you can visit our website. This information
is near completion, but it will be shared on our social media website, like I mentioned before. You can always just email marketing@waynehealthcare.org if you forget any of the other ways, or you can even call us at 937-548-1141, and somebody from the marketing department can assist you directly.
Nice. Gets February 18th. Healthy Moments, Heart Smart, raising awareness for a healthier heart.
Yes.
Sounds like fun.
Again, awareness is key.
Okay.
So Dr. Brian Doolin, who is employed by us, as is Brandon Bikey, physician assistant, they're going to lead us through a presentation. And just, again, awareness and education is key to knowing where you stand from a heart and vascular standpoint.
February 18th, Health and Wellness event. Play Healthy Jeopardy. Mm-hmm. It's a game?
It's a game.
Okay.
So we like to have fun. So Robin Fitzann, who is our wellness coordinator, she is going to lead these efforts. Again, playing Jeopardy, and it is fun. So really, it's just an opportunity to test your heart health knowledge. So come out and have some fun with us February the 18th from 1:30 to 2:30 if you think that's something you'd be interested in.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Now, we used to do a cooking show. Actually, we've taken a couple of turns at doing a cooking show. So your cooking demonstration on the 25th sounds like an interesting event.
Mm-hmm. Well, we would love to have you, if you're able to make it. Again, that's led by Karen Dresch, who is our diabetes educator. So it's around the noon hour. Free. So
The magic word.
Magic word. So again, it's open to the community. There's going to be samples available. So if you're available, we encourage you to come out.
There's an initiative that you all have that I'm going to kind of let you talk about, because you talk about knowing your numbers, and sometimes things just kind of happen. You all have a Healthy Heart Initiative. It's the Bob Mankey Healthy Heart Initiative. You were telling me about this, and hopefully I did that correctly. Before we went on the air, it's really a sad story.
It is. I'll just give the highlights, because I encourage people to go to our website as well as our YouTube page to watch the video. It is very impactful. But high level, Bob Mankey, 38-year-old man, out with his daughter running many years ago. He and his daughter Lauren, and he collapsed. And unbeknownst to him, had a heart condition, but had never been, told that he had any type of condition. And so
at 30-something years old, that's probably not something most people are having checked out, just because you're thinking
healthy,
that's
runner,
older.
Haven't had any issues.
Sure.
We can't let that define us. We don't know what's happening inside of our bodies, even if we feel healthy, right? So she was much younger at the time, is now in medical school. And again, I'm encouraging people to watch the video. But the family has, basically, we've partnered with them and have an endowment. So again, as we talk about heart awareness, being proactive and carrying things forward from an awareness standpoint, specifically our vascular screens, they're offered at a discount price because we believe that, this possibly could have been prevented. We'll never know. Right. But going forward, we want people to be screened. And this is a way to do it. And so this family matches what's put toward when you give a donation specifically towards this cause. So it's a great story. We've been able to save a lot of lives, and we want to continue to help others be aware of where they stand from a health and wellness standpoint.
You can tell that you all want people to do this. You've got free blood pressure checks Monday through Friday, 8 to 3. Just kind of out there.
Just walk into our wellness center. If you're at the hospital, we've got 2 entrances for those who have been to the hospital before. The Schweitzer Street side is what people have known to be the main entrance previously. But on the expanded area where we did our 2021 edition, where we have our new wellness center, inpatient unit, and obstetrics unit, if you come into that side of the facility, which is the Harrison entrance, right inside the entrance there, you'll see signage for our wellness center. And so, again, Monday through Friday, 8 to 3, you can come in and get your blood pressure checked for free.
Nice. I know we've run through a list of things that you all are doing in the upcoming month, but obviously your doors are open all day, every day. The voice in my head is telling me we're down to our last couple of minutes.
Sure.
I obviously haven't asked you everything. In this couple of minutes, what do you want the community to know about Heart Month, about Wayne Healthcare in particular, or whatever? I'm just going to kind of let you have the floor for a minute or two.
Okay. Well, again, health education and awareness is big for us because there are things that can be prevented. And so, yes, we're a hospital, but in the same token, we want people to be well. And so we have a play in that, as do every individual, regardless of age. So we do things with our youth all the way up into geriatric. So regardless of where you fall in that spectrum, let me back it up, even to birth, right, because we have obstetrics. But regardless of where you fall in that spectrum, we have something for you. And we want people to be well. We want them to know that there are free opportunities available to them. We also want people to know that there are partnerships and other opportunities available too. You can contact me directly at the hospital if there's something that you think, there's an opportunity to connect or partner there. We'd like to bring this to our employees. Whatever that is, we're here for the greater good of the community, and we want people to know that.
When you say community, that is a term that has continued to expand. Most people used to think their immediate town is their community, but then it moved. It's definitely much more of a regional type of thing now.
Yeah, community is really what you want it to be and how you define it. And so again, you heard me talk earlier about we focus primarily on our county a lot of these years,
Sure.
rightfully so.
And we have to.
Right. And that's just what we're used to. But now we're expanding borders, right? When we think about those who might live here in this community but drive across the border to work or vice versa. So people are driving for service. We know that. Make them aware of what's available to them. And so that's what we're doing. We're a community, and we want to continue to grow, and we want people to be healthy doing it, and we want them to know that they have choices.
Terri Flood, Wayne Healthcare, waynehealthcare.org is one place to look. Also, if you're a Facebook user, definitely check them out on Facebook. And you mentioned that is where you all get most of your social media hits. Also, look for the Bob Menke video on YouTube.
Yes, and we have a series of other videos that are on our YouTube page. If you're looking, for the nursing career and you want to learn more about our nurses, or even our expansion that happened a couple of years ago, there's videos there that walk you through those spaces so you can get a visual of what they look like as well.
Nice. Terri, appreciate the time.
Thanks
Thanks for
the
coming in.
opportunity.
We'll have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this week's edition of In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. If you missed any of this conversation, it's available on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page, and repeats all weekend on WGTV Channel 11. The audio is also available on G1013 and their sister station, 1490 AM, 100.9 FM, ESPN Radio, WKBV. Have a great weekend. As always, I wish you well.